615,000 naira. That is what workers are asking for. And they did that on the Labor Day. And they are asking for a better living standard for their members. But beyond that, what is the implication of that to the economy? Tonight, we'll be speaking with the president of the Trade Union Congress, Comrade Festus Osifo, who joins us live from our Lagos studio. And here with me, I have the presidential candidate of the SDP in the 2023 election, Mr. Adewale Adebayo. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
God bless Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Comrade, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sheung, for having me. Good evening, viewers.
I appreciate it. I know it's been a conversation that you and I have had over the time about what is realistic and what is also payable. And Labour has said the governors or the government in the state can actually make the payment. 615,000. I spoke with your colleague at the NLC, Comrade Joe Ajero, and he gave a list of what the organized labor was looking at and the breakdown of what culminated into 615,000. But it was slightly different from the conversation you and I had. It was about 400 and something thousand that TUC actually thought about. At what point did you ratify to 615?
Okay, thank you, Sheung. Thank you once again for having me. Yeah, if you could remember, as at the time we had that conversation a while ago, I think that should be sometime around March. So our position from Trade Union Congress of Nigeria was about 447,000 naira. But the NLC submitted a figure that was a little bit more than that. So we have to now have a kind of harmonization conversation. So when we had that harmonization meeting, so we came up with a demand of 615,000 naira. Just to quickly state, Sheung, that in negotiations, and I want Nigerians as well to understand some of the principles of negotiations. If you are going into negotiations, you don't go with your barest minimum. That is not how it is done. So if you are going into negotiations, you look at, from your own point of view, what do you think is fair, looking at all the parameters. So you put everything together. That is why, if you look at the list that made up that 615,000 naira, you have the cost of food. What will it take to feed a man, or for a man to feed his family, you know, 3 basic meals a day. If you look at that distribution, you are going to see the electricity cost. If you look at it, you see the cost of clothing, the cost with which the man is going to send his child to school. So they are all stated there. So that is the labor point of view. So that is our demand. If you ask any negotiator, he's going to tell you that he's not going to go into negotiation with its barest minimum. It is never done. So it is now when you take that, value, or rather that position, the other party will now also come to the table with their own positions. Then you will now start counter argument, you know, offer and counter offer before the minimum wage is arrived at. So that 615,000 naira is what the Labour, TUC and NLC felt that with this amount, an average Nigeria will tend to be comfortable. Sheung, if you look at in 2011, when the last minimum wage, or rather when the earlier minimum wage of 18,000 naira was passed, if you look at it as at then, 18,000 naira as at that time could afford you almost 3 bags of rice, because a bag of rice as at that time was about 7,000 naira. You know, we always pound out numbers in dollars, but for Nigerians to fully understand, let's remove the dollar ramification. Let's talk about the purchasing power of this money. So as at that time, 18,000 naira could give you almost 3 bags of rice. As at when the last minimum wage was negotiated and signed into law by the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, it was about 30,000 naira. That 30,000 naira could give you almost 2 bags of rice. That means there was already a depreciation from the 18,000, what the 18,000 naira could purchase as at 2011 to what 30,000 naira could purchase as at 2019. So today now, where our sight is actually on is when we go into that negotiation. We are not saying that the final sum must be 615,000 naira. No. But what we are saying is that this is our charter of demand to government. So the federal government will bring its demand, or rather its offer. The state government will bring its offer. Same thing. The organized private sector will make their case. Because in that tripartite committee, you have 6 state governors in that committee. You have 6 representation from the federal government in that committee. The organized private sectors, they are about 12. Then Labour, we have TUC 6, NLC 6. So that is the composition of that committee. So Labour, we have harmonized our position.
So
we have submitted our demand. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that the economics is at the bottom line of all of this calculation. The Nigerian inflation is almost 33%, 33.2% actually. It's competing with unemployment rate. When we wonder if a minimum wage is raised to that level, do you fear an escalation of the inflation rate? Or is that
yes.
factored in at all?
Yeah, Sheung, thank you so much. Sheung, if you look at where we are today, as at May 2019, when the minimum wage was signed into law, as at April 2019, the minimum wage was signed into law. So the inflation result, as released by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics in May 2019, if you look at, sorry, not the inflation result, the amount of allocation from FAC that was shared in May 2019 as at then was about 600 billion naira. So if you look at the average amount that has been shared in FAC between that time and now, in some months, it's almost ×3. What does that mean? I'm dovetailing down to the question that you have asked. What does that mean? If you look at, as at today, the average money that government or state government receive from federation account and what their internally generated revenue is, if you compare where we were as at April, May 2019 to where we are today, you could see that it is much more than ×3. What does that mean? All we are asking is that this money is already in the economy. So whether you pay this money to the workers, whether you use this money in building roads, whether you take this money in buying computers. For example, Shehu, the person that supplies computer to government, before now, maybe a particular HP or a Dell version of a computer could be sold before now, maybe at a cost of about 400,000 naira. With 1,000 naira to with exchange rate of 1 to 400 per dollar. It could be. But today, that has the new reality has reflected. So what that means is that the computer that you used to buy for 400,000 naira, you are now buying that computer today for about 1.5 billion naira. So the same way as well. Remember, Sheung, if you look at the 9th National Assembly, how much did they spend in buying one SUV car? How much is being spent today in buying the SUV car today? I watch your channel a lot, and I could see that this had a very wide coverage in channels and other media organizations. So it shows that the reality of today has been reflected in the cost of car purchases. The reality of today has been reflected in the cost of computers. We did not cry that, oh, this is going to rein in inflation. Inflation is already here with us. So what we are saying, that amount of money is already in the economy. That money is already there because today, in some months, they share up to 1.5 trillion naira in FAC. What that means is that that money that is already there, give workers sizable amount of this money, use it to take care of the goods that lay the golden eggs. Use this money to take care of the workforce because you have reflected this money in the cost of cars. How many times, Shehu, have you heard that governors will say no, they want to drive rickety cars because the cost of a car today has moved over 200 million naira? How many times? How many times have you heard?
Sorry, I'm looking at the direct implication on the economy.
Yes.
If you, experts have said, if you pump that kind of money into that sector, for example, paying wages in that amount of money, it will escalate inflation. And that's why I'm asking whether Labour is thinking in that respect. But what would you say is the figure that the Labour can work with? should the government, because we are hearing, and Edo State, for example, has done 70,000. And Lagos State also muted a possible increase in workers' wages. What figure do you think would be more reasonable and realistic and payable, in fact, to the minimum, the state that can barely survive some of the economic situation in the country?
Yeah, Sheung, still talking about the inflation again, Sheung. The amount of money in the economy today has already almost quadrupled when you compare from where we were as at 2019 to where we are today. So this money is already being spent in other items in the economy, and record has been there. And from the recent EFCC altercations with the former Kogi State governor, you saw the amount of money that was being moved into changing money into dollars and all that. So, and there are allegations today, and the governors, most of them, they've not come out to actually dispel that allegation, that the reason we are having a first crisis today is because at some point, FAC allocations have been moved into parallel market to shop for this. So those money that they are moving into those wrong areas, it should be channeled to paying workers. So whether you pay workers this amount of money or not, it is already in the economy. So that is our own position. So the impact on inflation, yes, there's going to be impact on inflation, but it will not be astronomical. So coming down to the ability to pay, to what is really pragmatic. Sheung, as a negotiator, when you are going into negotiations, you state your best case. When you are going into negotiations, you put your cards on the table, backed by evidence and backed by what you think is okay. It is not left for the other party to also come and do their justifications. We will also listen to them. And at the end of the day, we are going to arrive at a certain point, but with the ability to pay. Right. We strongly know, Sheung, let me anchor here. We strongly know that as it is today, you know, when state governors, when they are contesting for elections, they tell us how they are going to turn the mineral resources, how they are going to turn the human resources into prosperity for people. But what we have seen is that the misery index has actually been increasing all over. So we are calling on these state governors that the reason they are elected is to be able to turn all these various resources into goodness and prosperity for the people. So we are ready to listen to their own point, their own side of the story. But we should also, I want to use this forum to also inform them that as a state governor or as the president of a country, it is not, I mean, you are not there. It's not an a la carte. You don't just sit down and just think that whatsoever you throw to the people, they will receive. No, you must put in your thinking cap. You must wear that thinking cap, and you must be able to harness your material resources, your mineral resources, your human resources into prosperity. Not to sit down and be expecting FAC allocation every month without doing anything in your respective states.
Give me a moment, because there are a few cues, and one we wonder what is causing the scarcity of fuel. You are in the oil and gas sector. You are wearing two hats tonight. Maybe you can be able to give us insight on what is causing that. Let me switch over quickly to Prince Adewale Adebayo, SDP presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election. Thank you for your patience, please. You said, let me quote you, and you are directly making reference to the minimum wage. And let me quote what you said. You said, minimum wage in a regime of maximum cost of living and no minimum guarantee for social safety net in galloping inflation is a pantomime of self-deceit, a reality show in which neither government negotiators nor labor leaders negotiating wages live on their own official wages. What do you mean?
Okay, thank you. Just spend me a moment to say tribute to my late friend, Chief Olorogun Kenneth Gbagi, whom we lost last night, a good Nigerian, former Minister of Education and unifier the country. My tribute to Justice Sibi Gbagi and the rest of the family. With respect to the subject at hand, the dialogue between labor and the government in economics is the economics of a farm. They are actually behaving in a microeconomic way. It's just like in America when the UAW, United Auto Workers, or Unite, come together and they are negotiating their wages. They are talking within their factory alone. They're talking within their industry. So what I see going on is that both sides, they have their negotiating tactics. So some of the numbers they are throwing around may even appear to themselves to be unrealistic. But my message was to let people know that this debate arose not from the adequacy of wages, but the problem of purchasing power. And that if you listen to Mr. Osifo and all the comparisons he's making, you will see that even though he's talking microeconomics in terms of what my members need to get from their employer, they're talking to themselves. They're not talking about the economy overall. But what is causing price instability for them is the purchasing power of the Naira. And there are two ways to help the purchasing power of the Naira. One is that you can do stabilization of the currency itself so that you kill hyperinflation and inflation, and the Naira from January to December can maintain its purchasing power. That's what you can do. Second thing you need to do is to come from a welfaristic point of view, to realize that what are the workers worried about? What do they spend their money on? Earlier today, you were talking to Commissioner for Environment in Lagos about people being ejected from their houses. And even under the bridge, people were paying, according to the commissioner, 250,000, 300,000 to register to live in a slum. What does that tell you? It tells you that if the average worker had access to housing at, say, about 7% of his salary, has access to medical care at around 5% of his salary, has access to education for 4 or 5 children at about 6% of the salary, and now has to deal with only food and the issue of transportation, that by virtue of you having unemployment, you have an access card, the card I grew up to know in Lagos under Jakande. You have that card, LSTC, as it was called in those days. You could take transport. People go to London, you have that Oyster card. So if you have all of these things packaged within, say, about 25% to 35% of your salary, then you don't worry too much about these arguments about figures, because 615,000 Naira it will give you, if you are employing a million workers, which you have to employ a million workers out to 270 million people. If 37 governments, they need up to 1 million workers to run the services. So you'll be spending 615 billion every month. So in a year, you spend about 8 trillion just paying minimum wages. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean,
so now, where the problem lies, even if they cut it by half, still makes no sense. If you cut it by 1/3, 1/4, it makes no sense. So at the end of the day, let's say there was a magical space whereby you just start printing money and you pay the money. The way 615,000 sounds today is not the way it's going to sound in 4 years. Mr. Osifo or his successor will come back to say, the 615,000 is a joke, it can't take us anywhere. So what the intervention we are making is to say, you are solving the problem at the level of pricing of labor. You cannot solve that problem there because it's too narrow a space. Where you can solve the problem is the amount of social investment you need to make in the economy, such that employed, unemployed, semi-employed, highly skilled, low skilled, there is a minimum floor below which you cannot fall. That is what we are talking about.
And I'd like to bring in, you mentioned something that is very critical. And I make reference to one of the things that the president said during pre-election, and which he said, one of the major reasons for corruption is because people are jostling and stealing money to buy houses. People are stealing money to buy cars. The social security scheme in Nigeria is almost next to nothing.
Yes.
Where you have to carry all the 100% of the money you need to buy a house to go and buy a house. In any part of the developed world, nowhere is it done that you have to do that. Only that we need to start thinking of how we need to re-engineer our society. What do you think that this government has started on that good part? Because they said they have started on that note to give loans for starting with civil servants. Is that a good way to start, to re-engineer the social security and welfare of the people?
Okay, we don't have the same ideology, but they are throwing money at non-existent products. That's why I have disagreement with them. Whether you pay salary, you pay allowance, you pay grant like we did during Jorem Udoji Award.
Udoji Award. Yeah.
You give loans, so you do all of that. What is that loan chasing? If all of us, you remember the story of Udoji, where everybody gets their Udoji Award, and they were running to UTC to go and buy the bicycle, and the price of bicycle shoots up. So whereas in China, if you join the civil service, they will not give you any Udoji Award, they will give you a bicycle. So the bicycle comes with the job. If you were in the colonial government, if you're an assistant district officer, a health officer, forest ranger, school inspector, PWD worker, all these things are tools. They will tell you, you are good on employment to work for the government in this department. Go to so-and-so personnel office, they will tell you, this is where staff quarters are, this is where you should live, this is the school where your child should go. This is the
how do you guarantee those basics of life? Education, shelter, health care, and all what have you? Because these are things that people have to, scamper and look for money to get.
We have
but if they are secured,
we have to organize our politics and our governance around them. What we are doing now is we're organizing our politics and our governance around sharing money. So in Abuja, the states come to share, the local government under Agon also come to share. Now, TUC and NSC also come to collect their own share. It is still the same principle of sharing money, not sharing value, not creating things. Remember that if you are talking of stakeholders in the country, labor is superior and senior to the government of the day. So tomorrow I can be the president, but I can be president tomorrow. Tinubu is there, I'm there, but I will still meet labor there. It's a continuity. And the social services, the housing, everything we want to run to make life easier for labor is to be done by labor members themselves.
If this government is to start on a note that is sustainable, what would you say is the best and the practical step to start from?
Is social investment. They have to first stop worrying about who's a worker, who's not a worker. They have to first look at Chapter 2 of the Constitution and say, if by virtue of this Constitution I've been given mandate to come and govern Nigeria, what are the promises inside that Constitution? What is the minimum that a Nigerian should be? And do we have the resources to put them there? So you will now know that you need hospital beds, you need roads, you need everything. The way INEC knows that we need ballot paper, we need all those things. These are basic. So you have to go to that and consider that housing is basic. Therefore, you cannot even be allowed to open your mouth and say, I'm running a primary, unless you have a housing plan that labor can be living, that other segments society can be living, society of engineers can be living, students can be living. Right now, when we go on campaign, I just finished a presidential campaign. What were we discussing? When you are trying to discuss these issues that will drive all these wages, people will not understand that these are the main issues. So we have to put these issues back in the mainstream to say the behavior of Jakande resemble the behavior of Aparaku in Benue, resemble the behavior of Rimi in Kano, resemble the behavior of Menfolokilo in Rivers. All of them understood in the Second Republic that social investment was necessary. That's why every state had their own school board, had their own scholarship board, had their own exercise book they would give to kids. They had their own health sector reform. They had water resources, water getting to houses, even in the rural areas. You are from, with due respect, you're from Ekiti State. You will remember that if you go to some part of Ekiti State, you will see Ajasin's water works and all those things there. Then they were creating industry to create jobs. So what we are doing now is a monetarist government where we share money. And you will assume, for example, this is a very important person in Nigerian leadership, the TUC leader. He's assuming that because you are collecting 3 times the money, in fact, now than in 2019, that there's availability, not knowing that the 7 times the cost now is not up to what you were collecting before. Because this is illusion of money. It's not about the amount of money you collect at fact.
It is the value of the
purchasing power of that money. And then the allocative efficiency in economics of that money. So you will see that a state in the north with about 20% of the revenue of the state in the Niger Delta is making more progress if the allocative efficiency is better. And the other state might be spending his own money on politics and all of that nonsense, but the other one will be spending his own money on developmental things. So I think I want us to...
So we need to sit down and look at the basics. It needs to come as a package, like an employment package. You get into a job as a citizen of Nigeria, you have to have an identity which guarantees you a social security welfare package that as a citizen, it is guaranteed by law that you should get housing, welfare, education, health.
The way our constitution is written, they are not even related to a job. They are related to your being a citizen. When I was growing up, I schooled in Lagos and in Ondo, Jakande and Ajasin. I was so young to be employed by anybody. I was like 5 years old, entering primary school. I was not employable. But the government was interested before we start class, whether I've eaten or not. So when we got to the school, the first thing they will give us with our bread, with beans and milk and all of that. It shows to you that it's the contract between the government and the governed is that there must be a basic minimum. When they were chasing you around in primary school to give you that inoculation, it wasn't because you were going to be employed by them. It was the fact that the government has a duty to make sure you are not crippled and you don't become blind. You don't have the
let's take a,
those are those things.
Yeah, let's take a breather quickly. And when we come back, we'll get in your final thought. But we'll take a break. And also, I will go back to the TUC president. And maybe you can give us an understanding of what is causing this fuel scarcity. From the life of me, a lot of people don't understand why we should be having this fuel scarcity, imbalance in the pricing and all what have you. We're going to break and we'll be right back to discuss some of these issues. So much, everyone. Now, closing moment with my guests now. Let me go to our Lagos studio with the TUC president. TUC president, I know that the NSA president said they gave the government an ultimatum. What is the way forward quickly? Because I need to ask you about this fuel scarcity quickly.
Yes, Sheung, thank you so much. Just before I come to that, you know, the last time myself and my very good friend, Adebayo, were in your studio, we did not agree on a lot of things. By the way, Adebayo, I say good evening to you. But today, I think, yeah, we have some convergent points, really, because some of the things he said, they are actually cogent and real. But, you know, like when I started, I made allusion to the fact that in 2011, when the minimum wage of 18,000 naira was passed, it could buy almost 3 bags of rice. So that is the value. You know, as I have said often and often, that if you, the basic economics by A.O. Lawal said that money is a store of value. So if 18,000 naira could buy 3 bags as at then in 2018, but today, 18,000 naira cannot even buy you a quarter bag of bag. What that means is that the money has eroded. That is real. That is correct. The erosion of value is there. But in labor, when we are discussing, what we now look at is what is the reality for today. The reality for today is that inflation is above 30%. The reality for today is that things are hard, things are difficult. The exchange rate has moved officially from about 450 naira to somewhere around 1,400, 1,500. That is the reality today. So when you are now going into negotiations, you don't look at the wish list. What my very good friend over there was saying was the ideal situation. What should have been? Just imagine, for example, you get into negotiations, you discuss with government, they tell you they will provide this, provide that, provide that. You sign them off, and you don't discuss on realistic minimum wage. And tomorrow they deviate from that. How will your members survive? So as much as you are pushing
because we are
policy
totally out of time. Yeah. So, because we are totally out of time, just in about 20 seconds, can you explain to me what is going on with the fuel scarcity?
Yes,
20 seconds, please.
Today, just from what has been explained by NNPC, that is a logistics issue. Yes, but breaking down what that logistics issue is, because as of today, I think there are some challenges from our findings, because we try to relate with our members in NNPC as well as our members as well in NMDPROE. So part of the challenge today is that, you know, the bigger vessels, the tankers, they bring this PMS to our shores. Then when they bring them, you need the daughter vessels to be able to take this product from the bigger vessels down to the tank farms, where it could not be distributed to the retail outlets. But as it is today, there is a breakdown because there were some contractual issues that actually happened in there. But I think that has been sorted. But all we have been advocating in Labour, is that our refinery must work. If our refineries were working, we will not have these issues about mother and daughter vessels. Thank you so much.
Let's allow Prince Adebayo to send us out of the studio with your thought on it's an interesting time to be Nigeria's president. If you were President Tinubu today, just in 30 seconds, what would you be doing?
What I would do is to broaden the philosophy. Don't follow your party manifesto, follow the Constitution. Know that if you want to be president, you must comply with Chapter 2 of the Constitution. If we follow that for 4 years, it will be a different country. What it will mean is that we will spend our money. The priorities are there. All this money you see us collecting in government, they are not money unattached. They are attached to priorities that are in the Constitution: social investment, welfare. When you do that, workers will have no reason to be asking for unreasonable wages. This environment in the society itself will create more jobs, because two things that the government needs to watch out for all the time is cost of doing business and cost of living. Once you govern that from the fiscal side, which is one, don't waste government money, don't steal it. Secondly, prioritize it with allocative efficiency towards priority projects that can create capital. And then on the monetary side, the central bank will not be allowing the bankers to run away with figures of unproductivity, where you're around tripping money. If we do all of that, the currency will be stable, there will be economy will expanded, and more jobs will be there, and NSC, TUC members will not be at the mercy of government. They will actually be running the system with government leading them. That's where we need to go.
Prince Adewale Adebayo, thank you so much indeed for your time. As the SDP presidential candidate in 2023 election, and the president of TUC, Mr. Festus Osumbo, thank you so much, gentlemen. That's our show for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. God bless Nigeria.